I've never had a hallucination that felt so real and terrifying. That's the part that still messes with my head. Before I got my office job in the city, I worked as a delivery driver for 2 years. It was decent money, and most of the time, I liked it. But sometimes, it had its moments. This happened back in 2010. I had been out of college for a couple of years and was still figuring things out. I remember it was a Thursday, and I was working the 11 to 7 shift. It was winter, pitch black by 5 o'clock. And I wasn't exactly living somewhere warm either. I was in a small town in North Carolina, not the best area. I'm not going to say it was straight up sketchy, but it wasn't great either. I did deliveries around that town a lot, so I got used to how weird the neighborhoods were. Some streets had houses all bunched up together, while others had them spaced far apart with nothing but woods or empty land in between. It made deliveries take longer since the homes were so spread out. I usually had the route marked out on the map to keep things efficient, save gas, save time. That night, after covering a bunch of small towns, I turned onto one of those isolated roads, houses on one side, forest on the other. It was a little after 6 p.m. I was near the end of my shift and didn't have too many stops left. One of the last deliveries was to a farmhouse on that road, and the package required a signature. That meant I couldn't just drop it off and leave. I pulled up to this beat-up farmhouse way off the main road. The place looked abandoned at first glance. There were no lights on, no car outside. The yard was dead and the steps looked like they were rotting. I went to the back of the truck and pulled out one of the biggest boxes I had that day. It was heavy and full of small metal parts clanking around. I had no idea what was inside, didn't matter. My job was to get it to the door and get a signature. I walked up and knocked on the door. No bell, just my knuckles on wood. I didn't see anyone, but I knocked again. Then I saw it. The curtain in the front window moved. Footsteps. Someone was there, but instead of opening the door right away, there was a long pause, like uncomfortably long. Then, finally, the door creaked open just a crack. Some older woman peeked out at me, all nervous and twitchy. I told her I had a package that needed signing. She opened the door a little more, then finally all the way. She looked off like something was bothering her, real jumpy. I handed her the device to sign and she scribbled her name on it. The signature was barely readable. Then, she told me I needed to help her carry the box to her room. I figured that might happen. Big box. Older woman. Okay, fine. The moment I stepped inside, I was hit with this god-awful smell. Every house has a smell, right? Some good, some not so good. This one, I don't even know what it was. It was bad though, real bad. She led me through this tiny living room and into a narrow hallway. It was tight and I had to shift the box sideways to fit through. At the end of the hall, she opened a door and said to bring the box into the room and place it inside the closet. I asked her if she could turn on the light. She said it didn't work. It was almost pitch black in there. The only light came from the hallway and the faint glow from that dim lamp in the living room, but I could see just enough to navigate. I walked into the room with the box, and that's when I noticed something weird right away. In the corner, near the closet, there was someone standing there. I saw the outline. I saw it move. There was no doubt in my mind. I froze. It was a person just standing there, silent, hiding. I didn't say anything. I didn't wait around to figure out what was going on. I just set the box down and walked straight past that woman without saying another word. She started yelling at me, screaming even, telling me to come back and help her. Then she called me a piece of shit. I didn't care. I didn't know what that woman and whoever was hiding in that room had planned, and honestly, I didn't want to find out. I went back to the truck and drove off, finished up my shift. That night I started looking for a new job. And yeah, even now, I still think about it sometimes. I don't know what I walked into that night. Maybe nothing. Maybe something really bad. All I know is I trusted my gut, and I got out of there. I've been hauling freight for about 8 years now. Not much surprises me anymore. Long nights, dead roads, weird truck stops. I've seen it all. Or at least I thought I had. This happened about a year ago, somewhere in Nebraska. I was running a night route to Colorado, and the road was just pitch black for miles. I'd been driving since late evening, and by 2 a.m. I was already running on fumes, both for fuel and energy. I didn't want to stop though. Just a couple more hours and I'd hit a decent-sized town where I could rest. So I cranked the volume on my CB radio, hoping to hear some chatter to keep me awake. That's when I heard it. It came through in bursts at first, static, then a shaky voice. "Can anyone hear me? Please? Someone?" It didn't even register right away. I thought maybe I was hearing a dispatch line or something glitching, but then the voice came through again, clearer this time, scared. "I'm trapped. Inside my trailer. I think someone's outside. I can hear them walking." I straightened up, fully awake now. The voice sounded like a man, late 30s maybe. He was whispering like he didn't want to be heard. My first thought was that maybe this was a prank. There are weirdos on these frequencies sometimes, but something about how he said, "I think someone's outside," felt too real. I grabbed my mic and replied, "Hey buddy, what's your location?" No response, just more static. Then, "I parked off Route 17, near an old gas stop. Please hurry." That was it. The radio went dead after that. Now I was sitting there in silence thinking, Route 17. I'd passed it maybe 20 minutes earlier. It was one of those side highways barely used anymore, running alongside some busted-up truck stop that had probably been abandoned for a decade. I told myself to keep driving. It wasn't my business. It could have been a hoax, but something about his voice, man. It stuck with me. So I turned the wheel and backed up at the next U-turn point, heading back toward Route 17. The road was even darker than the highway. No lights and no other vehicles. Just the crunch of gravel under my tires and the low hum of my engine. I passed that busted gas station he mentioned, the one with the old rusted sign barely hanging, and then saw it, a white trailer, parked way off to the side in an empty gravel lot, no lights on. Looked like it hadn't moved in days. I pulled my rig up slowly and flashed my brights at it. No movement. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out. The air was freezing and dead silent. Not even the usual chirps of insects or rustling of wind. Just silence. I walked around the trailer calling out, "Hello? You okay in there?" No answer. I got closer to the back and noticed the trailer door was closed, but not locked. The latch was halfway twisted, like someone had closed it in a hurry. I felt my chest tighten. Something wasn't right. I opened the latch and slowly pulled the door open. My flashlight beam swept across the inside, and my stomach dropped. The trailer was empty. No cargo, no furniture. Just a single CB radio unit set on the floor, still plugged into a small battery pack. And the walls, they had scratches. Dozens of long, deep scratch marks ran along the inside panels, like someone had tried to claw their way out. Then I heard it, a knock, not from inside the trailer, from my truck. I spun around, the flashlight shaking in my hand. My truck was maybe 30 feet away, and I swear I saw someone standing next to the cab door for half a second. But by the time I blinked, they were gone. I didn't waste time. I slammed the trailer door shut, ran back to my truck, locked it the second I climbed in, and floored it out of there. I didn't even look back. I made it to the next town by dawn, parked at a crowded truck stop, and just sat there for a while, engine off, staring at nothing. I told myself that maybe someone was messing with me. Maybe it was some local nut job who set up the whole thing as a scare. But every time I think about that voice on the CB radio, the panic in it, I can't shake the feeling that it was real. And the scratches in that trailer, no prank, no joke. Something happened out there. I still keep the CB on during night drives, but ever since that night, I turned the volume down real low. Because honestly, I don't think I ever want to hear a voice like that again. I've been a trucker for various companies for 10 years. 3 years ago, I was working for a warehouse company in Montana doing shipments. I usually drove a semi, which is what I was behind the wheel on March 5th. It was a cold Wednesday, so the week was just starting, and a lot of loads needed to be shipped, so I was trying to bang it all out quickly. I started driving at 4 p.m. and intended to get to the destination that same night. I didn't want to have to pull off on the side of the road somewhere to sleep. I did around 5 above the speed limit after 12, which is fast for a semi. I was starting to feel very tired, but the destination was less than an hour away, and I figured I could do it. My eyes were getting dry, and it was starting to become a chore just to keep them wide open. I splashed some water on my hand, and then rubbed it on my face. It helped a little bit in waking me up. My truck was the only vehicle on this road at this hour, so besides my headlights, the road was completely dark. I remember reaching to take a sip of my water and almost spitting it out when I saw a figure approaching fast up in the distance. I hit the brakes hard, and as the truck slowed down close to a halt, I could better distinguish the features of this person, almost standing in the middle of the road. He seemed to be wearing all black with some kind of black scarf wrapped around his neck, and he was holding a long wooden stick in one of his hands. What really freaked me out, though, was his arm. His right hand looked way longer than normal, almost reaching his knees. I know it sounds weird, but it just didn't look human. His face itself, though, was a complete blur. I couldn't make out any features. As my truck slowed down and got closer to this mysterious man, I was about to roll down the window to ask if he needed a ride, but he just turned to his left and darted into the woods. I didn't take an extra second to stop and think about it. I just pressed on the gas pedal again and moved on. Regardless of how freaky it was, I was in a rush. In fact, it wasn't even until about 20 seconds after that my heart really started racing from taking in how strange it really was. Maybe 5 minutes later, I was able to get over it, but just like that, something else happened. As I was back to my cruising speed, I saw something run across the street in front of me. At first, it looked like a big animal, but as I got closer and it crossed into the woods, I realized it looked like another person. I didn't even tap on the brakes this time, I just kept going. I kept zooming down the road, maybe even stepping on the gas a little more, just because I was starting to get freaked out and wanted to get there faster. Another few minutes went by with nothing happening, however. I was getting increasingly tired, and at times, I was even swerving into the other lane a little bit. 40 minutes or so left in the drive, and I didn't know if I could make it anymore. I started looking around for good places to pull over and park for the night. There was eventually a little opening on the side of the road made of gravel. I guess it was meant to be just a little parking rest stop kind of thing. I pulled the semi into it, parked it, and leaned back and rested my eyes. I fell asleep for not even an hour, just to wake up out of nowhere to the darkness. I still don't know what woke me up, but as I looked outside through the windshield, something in my gut was telling me to turn on the headlights, and so I flicked the knob and lights lit up the surrounding area in front of my truck. There was something in front of the truck, though. A man. That same man with the black scarf I had seen earlier was standing on the side of the road. Now I could see his face much clearer. He had a very wide smile, and his eyes were open as wide as possible, and he looked right at me through the windshield. But this time I could see the long hand better. His right arm was almost hanging down by his ankle, and he was still gripping that wooden stick like it was part of him. I turned the truck on and pulled it out of that little clearing as fast as possible. I didn't know what to think. How could he have walked 10 miles from where I'd seen him last? I didn't stop again that night until I made it to my destination. I parked there, locked the doors, and fell asleep in the truck. Next morning I tried to make sense of everything. The only thing I could think of was that maybe I was so tired that I was seeing things. Maybe my mind was just messing with me after being on the road all night. But even now, I still remember that face, that smile, and those long arms.